A little dog. Two.
I'm Jane Rudolph.
And I'm Monsignor Charles Minor. Welcome to Reel to Reel.
Unfortunately, Father Joe Glass couldn't be with us this evening, but fortunately for you, we have quite a show, so why don't we get right to it tonight?
Fine, Jane.
We're going to have an opportunity to introduce you to someone who decided that one career wasn't enough, and the second career has to do with God. Also, if you think that the initials RSVP only appear at the bottom of an invitation, well, William Tier is going to tell you to think again.
Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons has an awfully wonderful thing to tell us about relationships, a very special insight I think you would not want to miss. And there's a beautiful expression on choir singing and soul music at the end. Please don't leave us, because that's important for us.
Monsignor, it was important, something personal for me lately, to go back to my alma mater, Cardinal O'Hara High School, to speak to the students there, and I was really impressed with their vision and their strength and just what great kids they were.
The strength of a school and the strength of young people is one that affects all of us. It really takes your whole life and turns it around. Now, if you want to see youth, don't be afraid, because you don't have to go to this Florida for the Fountain of Youth. Get involved with young people.
Memories. After spending 44 of his 74 years teaching at a Jesuit boys' school, with 15 of those years as athletic director, John Bernard Murphy's thoughts are filled with memories of the more than 14,000 young men he has had the pleasure of teaching, coaching, and guiding towards God. J.B. Murphy and St. Ignatius College Preparatory in San Francisco. The two are virtually inseparable. And just as S.I. has built a reputation as an academic, religious, and sports powerhouse, so too has J.B. earned a reputation as Mr. S.I., the embodiment of the Jesuit spirit of this institution and its philosophy of preparing young men to be of service to others through careful reflection upon God.
I go to Mass every day of the year except Saturdays. I sleep in on Saturdays, especially since I've got to be a few years older. It has to be almost an insurmountable circumstance to keep me from going to Mass.
As a young man, the age of the boys he now teaches, J.B. heard the call of God and entered the seminary, intent on becoming a priest. 10 years later, with less than a year to go before ordination, J.B. realized that his calling lay elsewhere.
I was 4 months from ordination. Physical, emotional, psychological things came in, and it was decided. It was not for me. I have never regretted those 10 years. And I made up my mind I was going to teach, and I hoped that I would be able to teach in a Catholic school. I don't think I stopped being an emissary of the good Lord when I stopped my path to the priesthood and became a teacher. I think there's a real connection there. Does not a priest, whether it's in the confessional or from the pulpit or at the sick bed or just having dinner with a family, he's teaching.
At first, the transition to the secular life was not easy for J.B., but the rewards of a long career teaching math to tomorrow's citizens have proven to J.B. that the decision he made some 48 years ago was the right one for him.
I get a great thrill out of having taught the governor of California, the mayor of Las Vegas, the former mayor of San Francisco. That kind of thing, I think, is very warming. The joy of a boy who doesn't know what the denominator is when he comes into the freshman class, literally, and it happens after 8 years of arithmetic. And in one sentence, you tell him all it is the bottom of the fraction, and he knows what you're talking about. And a smile comes on his face, and he says, "Why did I think fractions were so tough?" Those are the things that keep me young and keep me happy.
But perhaps the happiest memories of all are the ones J.B. has of teaching his own son, Chuck, who has chosen to follow in his father's footsteps as a math teacher at SI.
I think the reason I wanted to be a teacher to start out with was because of the experience that I had had on the high school level here. And I had some very, very good teachers here, both Jesuit and lay teachers here. And my dad was one of them. I have other knowledge that people don't realize about him that makes him a good teacher. And that is that his major role for me is as a loving father, as a great husband to my mom, as a great grandfather to my kids. And those things, he's a good person. And I think if he's a good person and he's concerned and he knows his subject matter, he's going to be a good teacher, and that's what he is. The kids at the school now have an experience with a man who's in his 70s, who is revered on the faculty. He's got the gray hair, and they look at him as the Mr. Chips sort of guy. And that brings out an affection for kids who look at him as a grandfatherly image. And that is a happy image for kids to have. And I think it's one of his strengths. And he enjoys that, and he goes with it. He works off of it.
1984 was a red-letter year in SI's long history as a sports powerhouse, with the Wildcats varsity basketball squad fighting their way to the final game of the state basketball championships. Thousands of supporters were on hand at the Oakland Coliseum to witness the decisive game, along with J.B., Chuck, and one of SI's biggest fans, J.B.'s grandson, Matthew, who hopes to enroll at SI next fall. The Wildcats struggled long and hard that night, but lost the championship trophy to the Long Beach Poly Jackrabbits. For the boys on the team, it was a crushing defeat. But J.B. consoled them with this advice.
These kids pray before every game. They have a chaplain. As a matter of fact, on occasions when the chaplain is away, they'll ask me to be the chaplain. The way I put it is that you went to Mass this morning. You prayed to do your best, and you did your best. And you were up against a team, and in that particular instance, there is no doubt we were outclassed. We could play them 10 times and lose 10 times. But that's not what's important. It's the fact that they did their best, and they got as far as they could. And there were a lot of people who thought they never would get that far.
To the sky, and blue light for you.
And so another season comes to an end. Another senior class graduates, and another freshman class enrolls. And through it all, one thing remains constant: J.B. Murphy and St. Ignatius College Preparatory. And what more does J.B. ask of life?
That God lets me live for another 45 years to teach at SI, and I mean that sincerely. I am not going to retire until I absolutely have to.
The spirit of Ignatius is think, judge, and act. The spirit of Mr. Murphy is father, son, and leader. Stay with us now. We have more to show you.
You are cordially invited to join the reel-to-reel crew as they travel through Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, gearing up for the most dramatic event staged on the European continent, the Passion Play, a world-famous tribute to the life of Christ. At Oberammergau, you will witness live on an enormous stage the events that actually happened to Jesus during his week of Passion, performed by a cast of over 1,000 professionals. This once-in-a-lifetime religious experience brings the Passion of our Lord before your very eyes. Included in your tour package is round-trip air transportation, 14 nights deluxe hotel accommodations, and daily breakfast and dinner. You will enjoy such sightseeing tours as a beautiful cruise along the Rhine River and truly experience the culture and folklore of Europe throughout your 16-day itinerary. This spectacular trip is scheduled for July 26 through August 10, 1990. Don't hesitate to reserve your seat for the Passion Play at Oberammergau because tickets are limited. All persons traveling with the reel-to-reel crew will receive as a bonus a 1-hour videotape capturing the memories of your trip. For more information, please call 215-587-3775.
We've all seen the initials RSVP, and you may even know that it means Répondez s'il vous plaît in French, but RSVP means much more than that. And with us this evening to talk about that is Mr. William Tier, who is involved in RSVP, which is the Retired Senior Volunteer Program as well. And welcome to Reel to Reel.
Thank you.
It seems that Reel to Reel had a little bit to do with your involvement in the volunteer program.
Yes, I was retired in 1967, February, and stayed around the house a little bit long enough. And happened to be looking at the Reel to Reel program one Sunday, and they had the announcement about RSVP after the show, I guess. And I took down the phone number and called up and arranged for an interview. So I went down and was interviewed by a young lady, Margaret Needham, I think. And we had lunch together and got to know each other a little bit. And then I guess we departed, and she looked at what all she had on her roster, what duties there were. They have all kinds of things, stuffing envelopes, data entry, and I don't know what all. Anyway, I got a call later, and they gave me 2 interviews, one with the parole system. A program was becoming newly activated, had to do with ex-prisoners with low IQ, some even retarded. And they felt that part of their involvement was due to not being able to read or write or not having any advantages in any case. And the thing was entirely unstructured, and you didn't know exactly what you were supposed to do when you got there. Anyway, you go along the best you can, and I've been tutoring English and arithmetic.
So, Mr. Tier, a lot of people would say, oh, you must have been a teacher then in your professional life, but that's not true, is it?
No, around the office, though, they used to call me professor sometimes. No, I was an engineer with the Philadelphia Tram Rail Company for 50 years after I got out of MIT in 1936 as a chemical engineer. But
so it was a whole new thing for you then?
Entirely new. Then they introduced me to a second program, which was a hospice. Had to do with the terminally ill, where a doctor declares that intensive treatment is no longer indicated, and just make the patient as comfortable as you can.
Doing some visiting and things like that.
Visiting, yeah, that's visiting is one portion of it, and that's the part that they got me involved in.
Now, we don't have a whole lot of time left, and speaking of that, a lot of people might say, well, my goodness, Mr. Tier must spend all of his time here, and I'm afraid to get involved in something like this because I want to be retired. I want to have some time to relax.
Yeah.
Is it very time-consuming to be involved?
Well, no, sometimes I think I'm ashamed of myself for not putting enough time in. Maybe 2 days a week. I go down, have to be there at 10 o'clock at 121 North Broad, work with Peter Solomon, he's the head parole man, Joe Urban, and
It's not requiring that much
classes
time.
like from
Right.
about 10 to 11:30.
Okay. Also,
So-
the other thing that many people might be thinking is, well, my goodness, he had a wonderful career and an incredible education, and I've been home for a long time. Do you need to have a certain skill in order to be involved, or can you just go and volunteer?
I think you can go and volunteer. I know one of my hospice patients, one of her worries was that when she went, her husband wouldn't have enough to do, and asked me to get him involved a little bit.
Well, I certainly hope that your involvement tonight will spark someone else who's watching tonight on Reel to
That's why I
Reel.
came, and hope so too.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tier. And tonight we've been also talking about involvement, and sometimes you feel a little bit guilty about not being involved. And Monsignor, that kind of brings us right into Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons.
Dr. Fitzgibbons has some fine things to tell us about our adjustments and our ideas of relationships, because we have so many early childhood disappointments, and we carry them into our long life with us, early childhood disappointments.
Many adult children of alcoholics have a deeply rooted feeling of being cheated. Sometimes it's hard to understand why these people should feel that way, because when you look at them, they have loving relationships, they're successful, they have a lot to be thankful for in their life, and yet they don't act that way. Now, the reason they feel cheated is because as teenagers and as children, their lives were disrupted terribly by the disease of alcoholism. Many of these people then unconsciously expect people they love and other people in their life to fill up that childhood and teenage emptiness, and nothing can fill it up. And so that there's this gnawing pain inside them caused by early life disappointments. Also, these people sometimes can be extremely moody and extremely negative. The most positive things can happen in their life or in their work, and they comment on it in a negative way. It's like this cloud follows them around during the day. Also, these people sometimes engage in lots of different types of compulsive behaviors to try to fill up that inner emptiness. Sexual acting out, excessive eating, at times excessive drinking or drug usage, excessive spending. Now, if you're dealing with a person like that, what can you do? First, try to understand where they're coming from, and it's really their childhood and teenage pain that causes them to be so negative. Secondly, be assertive with them. Don't let them get away with that negative attitude, because it's going to disrupt you and hurt you. Thirdly, remind yourself, my gifts do enrich that person's life. I can't make up for their early life emptiness, but I do enrich their life. Now, if you're a person who has this problem, the problem of feeling cheated in relationships, here's some things you can do. First, be thankful for the good things that are in your life today. Secondly, reflect that you were deeply loved in the past. Maybe not loved as much as you wanted to be loved, but you were deeply loved. For your resentment and your bitterness and your jealousy, use past forgiveness exercises. That is, picture yourself as a child or as a teenager and look at that alcoholic parent and try to think, I want to understand that parent and forgive that parent for their mistakes. Finally, meditation techniques can be very, very helpful in filling the inner emptiness. That is, it can be helpful to spend 2 15-minute periods daily meditating, I am deeply loved by people and by God. As a person works on that, the inner emptiness gets filled, and a person no longer has that sense of feeling cheated. They really feel whole and complete.
What great security doctor tells us when we begin to meditate and think, I know that I am deeply loved.
And we'd love you to stay with us tonight, right here on Real to Real.
Your first priority is your family. Your second priority is your job. And then your role as a deacon.
God's Love Has Many Faces is the theme of the 1989 32nd Annual Catholic Charities Appeal, which runs from May 7th to May 21st. Thousands of volunteers will be knocking on doors throughout the Archdiocese to receive donations. The parish goal for this year's appeal is $7 million. This appeal helps children, adults, and senior citizens that are in need. God's love does have many faces. Help those faces smile. Be generous and support the Annual Catholic Charities Appeal.
We welcome your comments and suggestions and encourage you to write to us at Real to Real, 222 North 17th Street, Room 907, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103, or call us during regular business hours at 215-668-9842.
An easy word to get caught into these days is one called dichotomy, and it seems that we're doing this tonight, and all the programs seem to have dichotomy all over them.
Monsignor, there seems to be two sides to every issue, and that even extends to someone who's a policeman. Because you often think of a policeman as an aggressive defender of justice, someone who may even use force in order to enforce the law. But you know, a policeman can be a peacemaker.
Sergeant Clark has been a Philadelphia police officer for 15 years. But now he has dedicated his life to serving the people through a religious order.
One of the things as a cop that you get to see a lot is the bad side of life. And after seeing so much bad, you realize there has to be the opposite too. There's got to be good. And I think that me dealing with people in that kind of situation where the worst comes out, with prisoners, with victims of crime, I started to search for just the opposite, and I found that in the church. I now see the other side of the coin.
Frank Clark enrolled in the seminary after high school, but left because of uncertain feelings. After marriage and 3 children, he still felt a calling and looked into the diaconate program.
I didn't have any idea that it was part of holy orders, which it is. The 3 stages is deacon, priest, and bishop. And basically, I can do almost everything the priest can do except confession and the actual consecration of the bread and wine.
We really weren't sure what a deacon was. We just thought a deacon could maybe give out communion. And then when we went into it, we realized it encompasses your entire life, not just giving out communion. It is a commitment to a way of life.
You know, the people look forward to seeing him, they look forward to hearing him preach. You know, they enjoy his presence. And the children were fascinated with the idea that he was both a deacon and a police officer. They're just, you know, how did he balance that? And
I think to be a good cop, you need to be compassionate. And to be a good deacon, you also need compassion. Basically, on the job, you know, I'm the sergeant, they're the police officers. We get along fine. But there are times when I've had a few of my officers come over to me and start talking to me about their problems. So they would do this before I was ordained anyhow. But now, maybe because I am a deacon, they think I speak with a little bit more authority. One of the things that was stressed at the seminary is that you have 3 priorities. Your first priority is your family. Your second priority is your job. And then your role as a deacon. I thought that because of my involvement with the church, maybe we wouldn't have a chance to be together as much. And just the reverse has happened. We do everything together now, more so than before I was ordained as a deacon.
Family life has changed. Communication is excellent. Recognition of feelings, talk about feelings, problems. The kids are very open to this.
It's a lot more relaxed. Things seem to be easier and it goes by a lot faster.
You were sent to heal the contrite. Lord have mercy.
We're really not the same 2 people we started out as. Formation really did something spiritually. Gave us a peace that I have never known before.
I think I'm more of a spiritual person than I was before. I think God is more a part of my life than before.
A deacon is a bridge between the clergy and the laity. Deacon Frank Clark shows that the church is a part of the real world.
A good liturgy never stops. It always goes on into service and practice. And so it calls for response. But you see, a good response is always a good witness.
There is a sweet and blessed story, a story that must be told, right from his throne in glory, something the world should know. Don't you know that Jesus lived to leave, his mercy's full and free, he changed sin and sadness to joy and gladness. It's mighty nice, it's mighty nice. It's all right to be a witness for the Lord.
want to say yeah after that. Yeah. The gospel choir hailing from the Washington, D.C. area, and we were really happy to bring that to you this evening.
You know, the exuberance of the gospel choir is something we misunderstand. It's such a reverence and their deep love that they have for God. They can't help but express it the way they do.
And exuberant is how we feel tonight, too. It was so nice to see that William Tier had heard about the RSVP program through Reel to Reel. That makes all of us very happy.
I'm glad because every time I walk in the studio, I see the banner here. I know what it was for.
It shows that not everybody runs to the kitchen for a cup of coffee when we go to a commercial break,
yes,
right, Monsignor?
That's right. Well, it's been good to see you again and be with you and to really enjoy the opportunity to talk about a deacon, a policeman, a football, a basketball. He's not really the coach, is he?
No.
Murphy and Son is a professor, a math professor of all things.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe next week we can learn a little bit more too, and you never know when Father Joe Glass will be popping up again, we promise. So until next week, please take care.
Goodbye, and God bless you.
Travel arrangements for Reel to Reel by Atkinson and Mullen, Newtown Square, PA, 215-359-5980. Looking for something fulfilling to do on a Saturday? Then the Heart of Camden Housing Corporation is looking for you. Volunteers from church organizations, sororities, fraternities, and community groups are needed to help rehabilitate homes in Camden, New Jersey. Any building or rehab skills you have would be welcome, but if you just have the time, Heart of Camden will give you the talent. Get involved with a worthwhile project. Lend a hand, give some time, learn some new skills, and help make a home for some of your worthy brothers and sisters. If you are a business owner and don't have the time to help with rehabilitation, but would like to assist the Heart of Camden Housing Corporation, financial donations or building materials are always welcome. For more information, please contact the Heart of Camden Housing Corporation at 609-966-1212.
What will happen at the Charismatic Rally at Villanova, June 2nd through the 4th?
Hundreds of people will come together for 3 spiritually refreshing days.
We sing, we praise God, we listen to great speakers, and we celebrate liturgy.
Don't worry if you don't know what to do or how to participate. You'll catch on quickly.
After all, the Spirit is contagious.
For information, dial 215-668-HOPE.
Don't forget, June 2nd through the 4th at the Villanova Pavilion.